Hello, and welcome to my presentation. In this talk, I want to share what I've learned about making global teams actually work beyond just surviving time zones. My name is Michał, and today I'll be talking how people at Asana work across continents, cultures, and time zones, and what actually works in a day-to-day work. I've spent a big part of my career working with teams spread across countries, so this talk is really about practical lessons, not just theory, on how to make global teams work day-to-day. Working across time zones sounds great on paper. Global talent, diverse perspectives, follow the sun, on-call and development. But in reality, it's often messy and frustrating. Here's what we'll cover today. First, I will give you a background of the problem. Then we will look at why working across time zones is so hard, followed by some practical tips. And finally, we will wrap up with a few fun facts and closing takeaways. So let me start with a quick intro. I'm Michał Nowotka, an engineering manager at Asana and the first manager in our new Warsaw office. Before Asana, I worked at other international companies like Snowflake, Bolt, YouGov, and the European Bioinformatics Institute, mostly in globally distributed environments, so these lessons come from experience. So what's the problem here? The core problem with global teams is really simple. It's just lack of overlap, and you lose that natural flow. You can't just grab someone for a 5-minute call or pair program together. Across Warsaw, New York, and San Francisco, overlap is already small. And once you add countries like Australia to the mix, it becomes almost impossible. Everything slows down, and you are often blocked until the next day. So working like this often feels like steering a Mars rover from a command center on Earth. If you think about missions like Mars Pathfinder, engineers couldn't just drive the rover in the real time. They had to carefully plan the sequence of commands, send them, wait, and then see what actually happened on Mars. If the rover encountered an unexpected rock, you didn't fix it immediately. You had to wait for the next communication window, adjust the plan, and set a new set of instructions. And that's exactly how cross-time time zone work actually feels. You write a message, and you wait. And you get a replies hours later, sometimes when you are already asleep. And often the reply raises another question. So you send another message again and wait again. So instead of 5-minute conversation that you could have in a real life, you end up with a 3-day round trip. And just like with a Mars rover, the problem is not with engineers. It's not that the engineers are bad. They are some of the best in the world. The problem is physics, and specifically, the problem is time. And yes, the good news is that, unlike Mars, this particular problem is solvable. The bad news is actually no one is getting a NASA badge just by surviving the async Slack threads. A lot of things that seem easy in a local company can become fragile in a distributed one. Having meetings all over the place during the day really messes up your work-life balance. and that can lead to things like burnout or mental health issues. The quality of communication suffers because the context gets lost. People closer to headquarters often have more visibility, influence, while the satellite offices feel disconnected. And without regular human interaction, trust and relationships are harder to build. So the question remains, what can we actually do about this? The good news is that this is solvable. And the rest of this talk looks at the best ways to manage teams working across different time zones with things that those teams can start using straight away. Let's start with the calendar. Your calendar is one of the most powerful tools that you have. You just may need to make sure that you block out the time for focus, clearly mark your out-of-office hours, commute time, lunch, and working hours. This makes it clear what's available and stops you from burning out because you don't know what's expected of you. Actually, Google Calendar specifically makes it a breeze to label and color code different kinds of activities throughout the week. If you keep your calendar in order, it will be easier for your colleagues to work with you, and you won't have any nasty surprises. Okay, so here are a few calendar pro tips. First, label your meetings so you can see where your time is going. If it feels like you spend too much time on certain kind of events, for example, one-on-ones, maybe you can decrease the cadence and get some more of a focus time. You can also set up multiple time zones and work clocks. And in this way, you make it easier to schedule meetings with people in different time zones. You can set up your appointment schedules and working hours to show when you are free. And make sure you subscribe to some handy calendars, like international bank holidays and company-wide meetings. Those are really small tweaks, and they can be set up in minutes, but they make a huge difference. This is another very common mistake. It's assuming calendars works in the same way everywhere. And the truth is that US and Poland have different public holidays, PTO rules, childcare leave policies, and even they have a different daylight saving time changeovers. So if you don't account for this, you will end up scheduling meetings when people are actually offline. And when you actually do need to have meetings in sync, there are also tools to help you see where there are overlaps across time zones. This makes trade-offs clear and helps share the inconvenience more fairly across different regions. This is a screenshot for the World Time Buddy. This is one of the best free tools available. If teams want to scale globally, they need to become async first. So use Loom for walkthroughs. Use Asana for work management. Use Slack for async messaging, Figma for design, and GitHub for code collaboration. Async isn't second best. It's how global teams get things done fast. But all of those tools have a bit of a learning curve, and you will need to put some practice to get the most out of them. For example, recording Loom videos might seem a bit intimidating at first. You will probably hear your own voice in a bit of a different way than what you are used to hear when you are speaking normally in a real life. So you will need to get used to that. It might be tricky to draw a line between where I should use Asana or where should I use Slack. And also, writing long PR descriptions on GitHub might seem like a bit of a waste of time at first. But async communication is a skill, and small habits can actually make a huge difference. So let's go through the most important habits and anti-patterns that you should keep in mind. So first of all, don't start messages with just hello and wait. This is not just because it's rude, because it's not rude, but it's just that in async, it creates this extra round trip. If I see hello while I'm in a meeting, I can't help you. I can't help you yet. And now I've gone from one question to two separate distractions. So instead, start with a question like, hi, quick question about X. And when I will receive that message, I will get back to you when I'm free in a one go. Secondly, if a public Slack channel would be a better option, try to avoid direct messages. And why? A direct message is a single point of failure. If I'm asleep, in a deep work, or out sick, I won't be able to help you. In a channel, someone else might answer. People can add context, and the decision can be searched for later. It also stops the same questions from being asked 5 times to the 5 different people. And thirdly, make sure you communicate the context clearly. When you are face-to-face, you simply count on the shared context and a quick back and forth. Async doesn't have that feature. So if you don't include the why and the constraints, the reader has to guess. And this creates misunderstandings and also more follow-up questions, which means, well, you guess it, more waiting around because this creates more round trips. So the plan is pretty straightforward. Write messages that give the other person everything they need to know so they can respond without having to chat in person. Another helpful habit to get into is to make sure that AI meetings have enabled the AI summaries switch by default. Because when you are working in a global team, not showing up to the meeting isn't a failure. It's just a part of the job. There will be always someone who is either asleep, on holiday, or just protecting their focus time. So if important context only exists in the live meeting, we've already created an information gap. And AI summaries can fill that gap. They give people who can't attend the same basic info, what was discussed, what decisions were made, and what the next steps are, without needing someone else to manually explain it later. And this does 2 important things. First, it stops people feeling bad about not attending the meetings. They can skip knowing that they will still get the basic info. And secondly, it stops knowledge from being trapped with the people who happened to be online at the right time. So imagine the meetings weren't just one-off thing, but something that everyone on the team could count on even when they are not in the same place. One principle that helps a lot in async teams is something that we call in Asana radiate the intent. And what does it mean? This means that when you are asking a question or you are sharing an update, you just don't say what you need, but you explain why you are asking and what is the problem you are trying to solve. Adding this extra background provides enough information so that someone reading it hours later can understand the situation without having to ask for clarification. When it comes to asynchronous work, missing context is the main reason for delays. If people don't understand your intent, they either make a wrong assumption or ask a follow-up questions. And follow-up questions means another full round trip of waiting. So try to predict some obvious follow-ups, some questions that someone who reads your message might ask, and try to answer them upfront. And it's not about writing very long message. It's not writing elaborates. It's about saving days of back and forth by starting with a slightly longer first message. And this is true for updates too. Let the right people know about your sprint commitments and progress, and make sure you tag them in the right way so you don't end up spamming everyone else. The plan is really pretty straightforward. Just make sure your communication is solid enough to keep things moving even when you are not around. Every meeting should come with something actionable. So here's a workflow that I personally prefer to use at work. So I use Zoom to capture notes. There is an option to enable transcription and meeting summaries. I take those summaries and I paste them into Asana, and then I use Asana AI features to generate subtasks. And this makes conversations, it turns conversations into actions and keep asynchronous teammates in the loop. And this is how Asana becomes a system of record. It connects content, coordination, and communication across tools like Google Workspace, Slack, Zoom, and Microsoft Tools. So work doesn't just live in your inbox or in your head. Let's also talk about PR etiquette. And why? Because it's really important for engineering teams, because pull requests are one of the most critical async collaboration points. When you are working across time zones, a pull request isn't just a code change, but this is a conversation that is stretched over many hours or even days. And that's why it really helps to start with why. Like, try to answer these questions of like, what problems are you trying to solve? What's broken, missing, or risky today? If reviewers don't understand the why, they can't make good decisions. And they will either block your PR or ask a lot of questions. And we already know what asking a lot of questions means. It just creates more questions, more round trips, and it slows everything down. So once you've got your head around what is the client request, what kind of feature you are implementing, let the reviewers know how you went about finding the solution. What options did you think about? What are the trade-offs that you are making in this PR? And this helps reviewers to follow your reasoning instead of trying to reverse engineer this from the diff in the PR, in the code. It's only then that the actual code changes really make sense. Another key point is to keep PRs small and focused, because smaller PRs are faster to review, easier to understand, and much less exhausting. especially when the reviewer is reading them first thing in the morning or late in the evening, because they live in a different time zones. Draft PRs are a great feature. They let you share your intention, but also get a directional feedback and avoid to going too far down the wrong path before someone else sees it. And when someone asks for a clarification, try to add comments directly in the code, not just reply in the PR thread. That way you can explain things while you are also showing the logic, help future readers, and stop people from asking the same question again and again. The whole point is to make PR reviewable asynchronously, without needing to live walkthrough, so you can keep moving even when you are offline. Aside from the tools, you simply need one important skill. You need to be a great communicator. And this is a skill that you can master. And it's really important to understand the cultural differences, build rapport, practice empathy, manage change, and negotiate effectively, especially when communication is mostly async. So on this slide are my top picks for the books that focus on communication and that change the way I communicate with other people. I won't be able to cover the content of all of those 5 books, but I wanted to focus on the most important one, the culture map. And one anecdote from this book is the idea of peach cultures and coconut cultures. In peach cultures, people tend to be warm and friendly on the outside. So this means that small talk comes easily, conversations feel informal, and it's normal to build a rapport quickly, but building the personal trust, especially when giving difficult feedback or making difficult decisions, often takes longer. And in coconut culture, so like in Eastern and Central European cultures, it's just the opposite. People seem to be a bit reserved or distant at first, especially in emails and messages. But once trust is established, relationships tend to be deep, long-lasting, and very direct. The problem with async communication is that those styles can be easily misread. A short, direct message from someone in the coconut culture can sound like something cold or dismissive to someone from a peach culture. And a friendly, informal message from a peach culture can feel very vague or inefficient to someone expecting directness. And then you also have the time zones to deal with as well. So if a message feels a bit off, it can sit in someone's inbox for hours or even days, creating unnecessary tension. So that's why it's so important to be empathetic and clear when working asynchronously. Just be clear about what you are trying to do. Don't assume tone will carry over in text. And also give people the benefit of a doubt, because most misunderstandings aren't really about attitude. They are about the cultural defaults. If you want to be great at asynchronous communication, this is not about changing who you are. It's about finding a middle ground so that working together still works, even when you are not online at the same time. Even with all those tools that we've got, there are still some things that just work better in person. So if you can swing it, try to visit headquarters at least once a year. And when you are planning trips, it's a good idea to think about the jet lag. There are some great tools out there, like Time Shifter, that will help you adjust to the different time zones effectively. But also inviting people to come over to your own office can help build empathy and share context. And actually, I would like to take a minute to chat about how powerful is to invite people for building empathy and shared context. Because like when someone from headquarters visits us in Warsaw, the day usually starts normally. They come to the office in the morning, grab a coffee, have a few messages, everything is fine. But then something interesting happens. So around 5 or 6 in the evening, they realize, hey, they can't just wrap things up and head to the hotel to take some rest. They still got meetings scheduled in their original time zone. So they are sticking around and they stay. And they are working way longer days than they are used to. And that moment is important because that's not a special case. That's just a norm for people in Warsaw when time zones aren't respected. The meetings are always happening in the last minutes, evenings are interrupted, and the energy is gradually draining away. What changes after those visits isn't the policy, it's the understanding. People know that time zones are tricky, but they just don't realize how tricky. Now they can feel this in their bodies. After this, conversations about time, async decisions, or calendar hygiene become much easier. It's not about being told to care, but it's more about understanding the context. And that's why it's important to make in-person visits, because they cram months of explanation in a few days. They build empathy in a way that no document, Slack message, or presentation ever will. And this is our team in Warsaw. We are a team made up of engineers, leaders, and talent partners. We work closely with teams all over the world to make distributed collaboration a success. So, if this topic resonates with you, feel free to get in touch. We are also hiring, so if you are into working on global teams, come and chat to us. And this is it. Thanks for your time. If you want to learn more, visit asana.com or get in touch with me or people sitting in the front row, and we are more than happy to continue the conversation. Thank you so much.